Now, here's this week's Independent Artist of the Week on DC Coast to Coast.
DC Coast to Coast, USA FM.
Hello, everybody. This is Ed Roman, and I'm proud to be this week's DC Independent Artist of the Week on DC Coast to Coast. From coast to coast to coast.
We build the myths inside your shopping carts and all the hearts of everyone you see. Buy up the bygones, illuminate morons. Have you seen it on TV? I hate to say it, but I told you so. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Another hand inside the puppet of an ass, falling down on the ground, and he's crying, he's your savior. With his box crying babies, we'll slit you and guilt you. The neon enticer injecting the flavor. I hate to say it, but I told you so. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We build the myths inside your shopping carts and all the hearts of everyone you see.
Wow, I really love that song. Great start. I told you so. Ed Roman here on DC Coast to Coast, USA FM, and Ed Roman is here joining us live on DC Coast to Coast. How are you, buddy? Good to see you.
Cheers, my friend. How are you today?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's early morning.
Yeah, I heard that. Now we are going to be playing the entire CD, Letters from High Latitudes, here on today's program, and Ed Roman is here, Independent Artist of the Week on DC Coast to Coast. And Ed, I was looking at some of your notes there, and I couldn't help but think that you're a little bit like me, as far as I saw that you played a lot of the instruments on this CD.
Yeah, you know, I think it's natural for a lot of musicians to want to branch out into other stuff, and it's healthy. I think it's a good space to, you know, it humbles you to get in front of something that you know is musical, but at the same time you just don't have the prowess on it.
Right.
And consequently, when you go back to your other instrument, you're hearing things in a different way, and you start to see the way instrumentation needs to unfold together. So why not have a heyday? It's like a kid in a candy store. I mean,
Exactly. Good. Give me a little background of your family and where you called home growing up.
well, that's, home is important, and it's where you have your heart and you lay your hat. Markham, Ontario is where I was
Cool. Canada.
hatched and raised. Yeah, Canada, and just north of Toronto by about 20 kilometers. And it was a farming community when I grew up. So we had a big cattle farm, and my dad was also very involved in politics. He was the mayor of our town of Markham for 30 some odd years, and the first federal coalition candidate ever in the history of Canadian federal politics to run as an independent, and won. And at the same time, he was also for a while the chief of police, and he was a commissioner of York Region. The political side of my music and just paying attention to what goes on in multifaceted forms of behind the curtain scenarios, as well as what's being sort of shown to us, ends up in my music. It's because of my dad, and even my passion for food. It's all part of that. And I think it's, healthy having those wide open spaces. I lived in the city for a while. It's where I met my wife. I still go and gig there, but even where I am now, we live in one of the oldest farming communities in Ontario. So we had to make the exodus to a place where there were still trees and forests and creeks, and it's healthy. And I find I just get mossy, excuse the phrase, but when you're not always, I don't watch television, I don't have a phone in my studio, so it allows your mind to circumnavigate all your thoughts and correlate them into musical ideas. So that's where I'm all about, man, writing songs and feeling.
Now, when did you get interested in music, and what artist influenced you growing up?
I really got into music because I was a dyslexic and still sort of struggle with it today.
Wow.
So music didn't have those realms of boundaries when it comes to words, and so it was just a natural way to self-express myself. And because of that, I really loved artists that were telling stories, because despite I had a word issue and a writing issue, I loved that knowing something about the history of a person or a town or a situation, or even writers that were inspired people to, and swoon them to think a different way, like Dylan or Pete Seeger or anybody from the past that had that sort of envelope power in their writing. But then instrumentally too, because I'm a bass player by trade, and Jaco Pastorius was a huge influence to me. Yeah, and a teacher from a local high school that I didn't even go to gave a couple of his records to a friend of mine and said, Ed should listen to these. And because of that, I started to realize, wow, a bass doesn't have to be just in the background. It can be a melodic instrument. And then, so with that said, that forward thinking also led into the idea of, well, maybe I should try to experiment with other instruments and fool around. Jaco did it, Stevie Wonder did it, all these other people that I really love to listen to, you put on their records, you look at the liner notes and go, wow, man, that's all Stevie, or that's all, and it has nothing to do with ego. It's just the sort of insight to the song and how it evolves.
Very cool. Now, are there any other family members into the music like you?
You know what? No. And my brother has a great voice, but he doesn't sort of, play or sing or anything. A lot of my nieces and nephews have dabbled in flute and clarinet and guitar and piano, but they're not as crazy as me to take it on as a career.
Cool. Okay, well, let's hear a couple of cuts here from the new CD. I see you got guitar in hand, so we'll have you play something live here in a little bit too. So, absolutely.
Sure, no problem. Anytime.
Tell me about Coming My Way and World Keeps On Turning.
Coming My Way came out the night before another studio session when, you planned to do something completely different. But as you're going through processes, you start to go, hey, this fits right with all the stuff that we're kind of working towards on this last record. And I never try to negate when an idea is coming to you. And just because it's new doesn't mean it's not ready to put down. But I also, I wanted a good mantra for people to sort of say, hey, look, things are crazy, things are tough, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on out there, but it'll eventually come your way. You just got to focus and put your nose to the grindstone, believe in yourself, and everything will start to come into focus. And then the world keeps on turning comes from the Kalahari Bushman. There's always a line at the end of every verse that says you have to keep the bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. Their theory is that their theory is that if you keep it down there and you think of it this way, if you let it come past that, you can't walk and move through life. If you let it invade your heart and come up this far, you're not able to love. If it takes over your mind and your speech, you're not able to think clearly. So keep it down there. It's always going to be there, but you can step over it that way. It's not always on you all the time.
That's great. That's great stuff. Okay, let's hear them. Here's 2 in a row here on DC Coast to Coast from the Independent Artist of the Week this week, Ed Roman with Coming My Way and World Keeps On Turning on DC Coast to Coast and the USA FM.
Hey everybody, this is Ed Roman. And here's one of my tunes called Coming My Way on DC Coast to Coast and the USA FM.
I've been looking for a good time. I've been looking every day. I've been waiting for the sunshine. It's been coming my way. And it's been coming my way. I've been dancing at a hold down, loved to chew the fat with folk. I've been sipping on the moonshine, I've been telling dirty jokes, and it's been coming my way. And it's been coming my way. Tell me, is it leaving, deceiving, relieving me anyway? I'm hard of hearing, believing, the healing, it happens every day. And it's been coming my way. I could write you out a postcard, I could tell you all the news. I've been fighting off the demons, there's no way that I can lose. And it's been coming my way. And it's been coming my way. keeps on turning round, but I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Just like the big wheels on the 235, standing around a fire, yelling glad to be alive. Alive! And all my tall green friends, they be hanging around. There's a warrant out for you boys, they're coming to lay all you down. Keep all your bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. And I hear the world that's turning round. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Maybe a good swift kick in the push is all that we need. Nothing comes from the grounds without planting some seed. I pick up my axe, I heed the call. I can't stand to seem to bear the weight of it all. Keep all the bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. And I hear the world that's turning round. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Nothing but shadows falling. Even if you deceive me, the world's gonna keep on spinning round, spinning round and round and round, spinning round, spinning round and round and round. Sang to me as the plane of people flew away. Seems like it could have happened on any other day. And when the fire's out, will it all still be here, my dear? Don't think it's anything you can measure up into years. Keep all the bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. And I hear the world that's turning round. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Round, 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 round and round and round and round and round and round and round. Round and round she goes. Where she stops, nobody knows. It's round and around. Yeah, round and round she goes. Where she stops, nobody knows. It's round and around, round and round and round and round and round and around and around.
There you have it, 2 in a row from the Independent Artist of the Week this week, Ed Roman with Coming My Way and World Keeps On Turning. And Ed is here joining us from Canada, and so glad you are here, brother. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. I appreciate it.
Hey, talking to you anytime is always a good time, and I'm happy to be on your show always, man. You got great stuff going on, and you support local and independent music, so that's huge, so thanks, man.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime. Now, what kinds of, as a songwriter, what kinds of things do you like to write about?
Well, I'm really motivated by life experience. I mean, it's as corny as that sounds, or even cliche. We all go through so many things, and with friends and family and other scenarios that you see happening, it's really hard not to, like I said before, collate those ideas in some emotional and musical way. So I'm very politically driven, especially these days with the climate, the way that it is. That the song "I Told You So" has a lot to do with asking questions about, where our food comes from and who's sort of running the show, and and important to ask those things and to stay on top of it. Music for me is a vehicle that helps me express those thoughts and ideas, and I think, a lot of musicians, when they are writing a song, or a melody for that matter, it's like the idea starts to present itself to you because you've been fiddling around with the thought in your mind, and provided you follow it with your machete, you will eventually find that there's a path that's starting to lead you into this. Wow, I had set out to think about this, but now it's leading me into this way of thinking, and then the overall puzzle starts to show itself to you in a picture. And to me, that's what the musical idea is. There's these little pods of encapsulated moments in time in people's lives. I heard we were talking about Herbie Hancock on the break, and on the back of Jocko's first record, he wrote, "The definition of an artist is one who has the ability to fuse their life with the rhythm of the times."
Yeah, that's
great.
great.
And I think that's what we're all trying. It is. And I use that with all my students too, because aside from teaching things in books and things that they want to work on, I'm always trying to ask them, well, what have you got to say?
Yeah.
And how are you going to say it? Because that's we're all living now. So let's talk about it, and that's what music is a great vehicle for. People are my inspiration. Life.
Good stuff. Now, when you write, do you need to be in a particular setting, or can you pretty much write anywhere?
The thought may strike me anywhere at any moment in time, and I have to be prepared. And I've been in scenarios where I'm running back and forth between one room and another room, because I think the idea may be at a sort of a point where I'm like, okay, I'm not really feeling it in the way it's supposed to be coming. So all of a sudden I'll like leave it for a moment and then run back to where I was. Or I could be in a car and driving down the road, and then I have to pull over and grab an old receipt and a pencil or something and start scribbling. Or all of a sudden I might be in the middle of the idea and its completed stage, and then I'll go, wait a minute, I want to rewrite this verse in a completely different way, because now that I'm seeing it in its complete spectrum, I want to say this. This is what it's asking to say. Right. So you never know. I have a scribble pad by the bed. If I'm lying down in bed at night and the thought starts to come to me, anywhere and any time. If I showed you my book, here, let me just grab my book. You see, aside from this being a writing book, folks, it's filled with multitudes of miscellaneous pages from different pads and scraps of receipts, and but what happens is you start to collate all that stuff, but I'm acting on it. This book may not always be around, but all these little hunks of paper of my life are. Right. So they end up then focusing into a tune, and before you know it, I'm playing something.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Now, what's your formula when you write? Do you like to write lyrics first and music second, or vice versa, or a little bit of both?
Great question, man. I think I never try to say this is how I write a song. I think that can be dangerous because you end up with formula and also sometimes this form of stagnated creativity. So that's why when people listen to my records and there's, let's say, 13 tunes on a record, you're going to hear a folk rock number. You'll hear a folk number. You might hear a jazz number. You might hear something that sounds African. You might hear something that sounds progressive. You might hear something that's jazzy. All those things to me are important to follow. Mingus and a lot of people that I aspire to on a musical, theological level, like it's a religion, they all say, look, it's all music. We put it in boxes because it's necessary for us to do what we do. So why should the writing process be any different? And for me, that experience then also, cultivates me. I learn every time, even if I'm pushing myself to write something that's even trickier than I'm capable of doing. That's something that I like about the writing experience. You never know what's going to happen. It's like a box of chocolates.
Exactly. That's good. I was going to have you play live in this section, but I think I'm going to wait till the next section because the gardeners are still here and there's still a little bit of noise in the background, so I'm going to wait on that. But tell me about these next two songs we're going to hear. What is it? Rowley's Cottage and Jamaica.
Great. Yeah, Rowley's Cottage is dedicated to the great Canadian blues harmonica player, Rolly Platt. And Rolly and I have worked together. You know Rolly? Yeah,
I've heard of him, yeah.
Player. And I used to do a webcast here out of my studio called Area 51, and we'd have different musicians supporting local stuff. Hey, people, guess who's here? These are great musicians in here. Rolly was part of one of the troops, and during the interview, we had a gentleman from Rogers TV come out and do the interviews. He asked him, how many harmonicas do you have? And Rolly said, enough to build a small cottage. And from that moment, just that
that's great.
That little thought, I had this
great.
vision of this cottage entirely made out of old harmonicas, right?
That's great.
And what would Rolly's cottage sound like? Jamaica is obviously written about the jewel of the Caribbean. To me, I've spent a lot of time in the last year and a half, 2 years there, playing music, hanging out with people. I'm a godfather to a child that's there. So my wife is godparent as well. I feel so connected to that place, and where we were in St. Mary's and St. Anne's, meeting farmers, going to people's homes for dinner, all of that was such an eye-opening experience on a multitude of levels. And it was very important for me to write that tune. And also, too, I tried to really stay true to the more old-style, old-school reggae and feel of it. Now a lot of reggae, especially down there, is considered 4 on the floor, 130, 140 beat, and there's not a lot of, one drop going on. So I really wanted to have that feel in a modern reggae song, but still paying that homage to that feeling. The reggae music is such an innovative style. Nobody ever thought about leaving out the one before.
Great. Okay, let's hear them. In case you're just joining us, everybody, you are so late. Okay, this is Ed Roman, the Independent Artist of the Week this week on DC Coast to Coast, and we're going to hear another 2 in a row with Rowley's Cottage and Jamaica right here on DC Coast to Coast on the USA FM.
my food and talk the talk. And I wipe your tears and walk the walk. In Jamaica, in Jamaica, in Jamaica, in Jamaica. Speeding, riding, eating, beating, tear. Strap up, strap up, strap up, strap up. Well, driving in Jamaica, you can drive it anywhere. Drink your red stripe and watch your Bible. I found a sacred melody inside a hidden rift. I've ceased not Babylon, ceasing not Babylon. Home of Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Jimmy Cliff. Hold your hands and wave them high. Feel the pulse and watch it fly. Well, you know you're home when you hear that sigh. Well, a jewel in the ocean is where it lies. In Jamaica, in Jamaica. Well, in Jamaica, in Jamaica, in Jamaica, in Jamaica, in Jamaica.
It just keeps getting better and better here on DC Coast to Coast with the Independent Artist of the Week this week, Ed Roman, joining me from Canada, and that was Rowley's Cottage and Jamaica. And good stuff, brother. I love it.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Gosh. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
what is your take? What is your take on mainstream radio today?
Well, it seems to be more like this dying Goliath Leviathan that's grabbing everything as it falls to the ground. You know, they're so corporatized and have shrunk on a multitude of levels because of the industry and the way it's so drastically changed.
Yeah.
And they're holding their cookies as tight as they can. You can't walk into a major station and expect rotation like you did in the past.
Yeah.
For instance, Q107 here in Canada, they used to be 4 floors of a building that was a huge station. They had a whole independent, spotlight program. They did the homegrown contests every year for bands to be spotlight and to win money and radio airplay. It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And now they're in I think it's a 7x10 booth at the corner of Dundas and Yonge Street here in Toronto, just across the street from the old Eaton Centre. That's shrinking of that mechanism and making it smaller is out of necessity because there just isn't the overhead for them anymore. Internet radio, blog talk radio, video, internet video, news media on the internet, all of that is so much more attuned to what's really going on.
Yeah.
Whereas even with the changeover with when all the new satellite companies came out, there was this promise that it was going to be great and everybody would be able to get on and you'd be able to hear a kid's band in Mexico and somebody in Sweden and it would be your choice. But very quickly, they had to conglomerate, form into a sort of a union. And, I remember cable when we got it years ago in the 70s as a kid, there weren't any commercials. It was a commercial-free, in-house, in-line, in a very short period of time, we were starting to pay for commercials.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happened with satellite radio. You got the unit, you got to pay every month. But, Neil Peart wrote a lyric once that said, it's almost free. The only thing that you need, in the spirit of radio, is a radio. And the airwaves are there, crackling with life. Now it seems like everybody's trying to get it to pay. into
Yeah.
these things
Yeah.
because they're trying to, here with this, we can have a show. Millions and millions of people around the world, all over the United States, anywhere can watch it, and they don't have to go through all the garble.
That's right. And that's I've been in radio since I was in high school, 15 years old. I've been in radio, and and I've been a musician. Used to be a singer. I can't sing anymore because of the dystonia. But
I'm sorry, man.
yeah. Well, I'm God's helping me deal with all that. So, but
Acupressure has wonderful things too. I have a friend that has it, and it's stuff that deals with his hands. He's a banjo player, and he goes for these acupuncture tacks that go into these pressure points in his ears, and they're different for different parts of your body. But
Right.
he does that, and he can play again. So I
It's
don't know if
interesting.
you've ever looked into it before, but
yeah,
it is really interesting.
I have to get Botox injections every 3 months, because without it, you wouldn't hear me at all. I'd be at a whisper.
Right.
So
And
it's
that's building this up here, right? It's like strengthening this
exactly.
your vocal
It's
muscles.
stimulating the muscles. My vocal cords are completely normal. Okay, there's nothing wrong with my vocal cords. Dystonia means involuntary muscle spasms. So everything's going like this
Right.
with my muscles around my vocal cords. So, anyways, I didn't mean to go in that direction with this, but
But you know
I like
what,
to
man?
educate
It's
people
also important.
yeah,
Well, yeah, have some sense of compassion for the moment. If somebody tells me that they have this problem, it's people will get to this point where like, oh, okay, somebody's in pain, but they're also saying, no, I'm okay. I know why they do what they do, but it's important on that apathetic or empathetic level as human beings that we pay attention to those things.
I appreciate that.
Music
brother.
is suggesting the same, so my prayers to you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, getting back to the mainstream radio thing, like I said, I've been in radio most of my life, mainstream radio, and it just got to a point where I hate where it has gone. Most mainstream radio stations, they will not support indie artists or local artists. Most of them. There's a handful of them that do, but most of them don't. And radio stations I was working at, they wouldn't play my music. The only place you can hear my music is on my own show. I can't get anybody else to play my music. And it's mind-boggling.
Right.
So that's why I do what I do here, because I know there's a lot of people, other artists that are in my shoes that are starving for airplay that are really, really, really good. And it makes no sense to me. So.
Well, and the other place that is the sort of middle ground or the missing link between both of those things is university radio, where at least they still have that rotationary DJ. They play what they want. They'll play music that's going to be in the local area and supported if it's going to be close to the university or college. They're still operating in that middle ground. And they even have integrated into like the internet as well too, because they know a lot of people just aren't listening to radios or even on a radio anymore, unless it's in the clock by your bed or something, right?
Yeah.
So that's also too where a lot of independent music still gets a lot of support on that level, but it's not where 90% of the people get their listening pleasure from.
Exactly.
It's a completely different spectrum, right? It's an age group thing and a time frame thing.
Yep. Okay. Before we play these next two cards, I want to let's hear something live from you, brother.
Sure. Okay. No problem. I was saying I wanted to play something new, and that the DC Coast to Coasters would definitely have the privy to hear something that might be going on a new record, which is going to start working on in the spring. So I wanted to write another tune, and I'm always thinking about people and how they interact with one another. But as human beings, we carry so much baggage with us, and once again, trying to keep it below the knees, like Kalahari Bushman. Trying to let things go in a way. Like you can recognize that something happened, but anyway, I'll I'll let the song tell itself. How about that? Instead of me
Cool.
jammering the whole time.
All right, here's Ed Roman, everybody.
In the morning when it's all over, I'm gonna lay one down. And if I see my brother's been falling, I'm gonna lay one down. Lay one down for my brother. Lay one down for my foe. Lay one down for one another. Lay one down and let it go. Lay one down and put asunder. Lay one down, reap what you sow. Lay one down, it's like butter. Lay one down and let it flow. While someone is concerned, I'm gonna lay one down. Can I tell you the truth, what you think I was performing? I'm gonna lay one down. Lay one down for my brother. Lay one down for my foe. Lay one down for one another. Lay one down and let it go. Lay one down. Put asunder, lay one down, reap what you sow. Lay one down, it's like thunder. Lay one down, and let it flow. Lay one down, let it flow. Lay one down, and let it flow. You're already falling down. Someone on your way up and carry me. I think the winds have started changing higher ground. Drop your things and chase me, bury me out in the fields where things are blooming. In the night, it always comes without warning. I'm gonna lay one down. So I'll leave you in thought, that's all I am reporting. I'm gonna lay one down. Lay one down for my brother. Lay one down for my foe. Lay one down for one another. Lay one down, let it go. Lay one down. Asunder, lay one down, reap what you sow. Lay one down, it's like butter. Lay one down, let it flow. 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 Lay one, lay one, lay one, lay one, lay one down, let it flow. Lay one down. Let it flow. Lay one, gonna lay one down, gonna lay it down, and let it flow. Gonna let it flow. In the morning, when it's all over, I'm gonna lay one down.
I love it. Lay one down. So that's upcoming.
Lay it down!
Yeah, buddy.
That's an upcoming song for the new record. It's
Cool.
still evolving and I'm feeling it out, but I thought, you know what?
Hey, and when the new
Good to be a little bit afraid.
there you go. When the new one comes out, we'll have to premiere it here on DC Coast to Coast, and we'll do this again.
Awesome, man. I'd be such a privilege, and I love always
that'd be
rapping
awesome.
with you, man.
Okay, let's hear a couple of more from my studio guest here today, Independent Artist of the Week, Ed Roman. Here he is with Rosetta Stone and Electric Beauty on DC Coast to Coast on the USA FM.
It isn't simple anymore, these life changes. Barely awake in harmony, too late for sale. It's all about the fog on the windows and the state of affairs. You left my soul on vacation, now people are beginning to stare. Telephone's been ringing, let's talk to who's there. You're like a message on a birthday when nobody cares. Can you tell me how it glows before you shrug off your face? I'll see you early in August for a fire at your place. Illumination, spark-filled fields with every blade, like the Rosetta Stone singing. Hey, what do you think? I've been through all the consultations. Now it's time for me to leave. Watch for the incantations, I'll be wearing them on my sleeve, like the Rosetta Stone singing. Hey, what do you think? Like the Rosetta Stone singing. Like the Rosetta Stone singing. Like the Rosetta Stone singing. Hey, what do you think? Like the Rosetta Stone. Like the Rosetta Stone. Calling on all the distant gods, fine dusted bits of wavelengths, transmissions open, message ready to receive. And it comes in all these little parts, words and broken phrases. Hey, Mr. Tesla, you ain't got nothing on me. It's all of our electric beauty. All of our Sometimes I sit inside the fog. Walls are bricked to building. Somebody's trying to get through, you see. And I know I act just like a dog. I disobey obedience. Pretty soon, they'll be coming after you and me. 'Cause all of our electric beauty, all of our electric beauty, all of our electric beauty. Distant cars, fine dusted bits of wavelengths, transmissions open, message ready to receive. And it comes in all these little parts, words in broken phrases. Hey, Mr. Tesla, you ain't got nothing on me. It's all of our electric beauty, all of our electric beauty, all of our electric
Well, there you have it, another 2 in a row here from the Independent Artist of the Week. This week it's Ed Roman, and that was Rosetta Stone and Electric Beauty. Ed, thanks again for being here, brother. I so appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, bro.
Hey, anytime, man, and it's always great talking to you guys. Just DC Coast to Coast is one of those stations, again, that is supporting local music, indie music, talking about stuff that the majors aren't. So when you say thanks for having me on, I have to say it back tenfold because it means a lot to me too, man. I'm happy that you're spreading the word and we're working together.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, brother. I so appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, what other kind of work did you have to do in your life to support yourself?
Everything. I've always been a laborer, and that's just because being as a farm worker and being on a farm, raising cattle, I feel so much more like I'm doing something every day when I'm using my body and my hands. So I've done from pick food, clean out houses for construction sites, anything that's sort of laborious that most people don't want to do, which is where there's like money. You know, like even on the farm, baling hay and filling barns, you know, every
man, after my own heart. I see.
You know,
I was raised in New Hampshire, Vermont, you know, which are farming communities where I lived. And I used to spend every weekend on my uncle's farm milking cows at 4 o'clock in the morning, baling hay, all that stuff. And it's a great life. I really enjoyed that when I was a kid. So.
Me too. 5 o'clock, you're up, you're milking cattle. We also had beef cattle as well, too.
Yeah.
We had 1,500 head, 6 barns. It was a 1,500-acre dairy and beef cattle production farm as well as cash crop.
That's
but
what we had to
aside from that, just to stay connected to this, I've been teaching. I've been teaching for 25 years as well, and
Good for you.
that has also allowed me to branch out into multiple instruments. Because look, if a kid comes to me and I'm living in a rural community and they say, "Do you know how to play the drums?" Well, yes, I do, and I've been playing them for a long time. But you know, as the years pass, you have to learn how to write drum music. You have to learn how to teach drum music. All of those things kept my mind active. And that's why teaching was always, okay, I might be doing this job and I may have cattle to look after, but my evenings from 3 o'clock till 9 was always about teaching. So those are always things that, in ways that I've managed to pay the bills and keep things going. And then saving some of that money to put towards a recording studio. I mentioned today, Area 51, my studio here, is running. There's a client up there right now and a completely different producer.
That's great, brother.
That makes me extra money as it comes in. I can talk to you and have a good day. We can play music and have fun and chat. And meanwhile, I'm over there making some money. And I go, oh, that's good.
It's all good, brother.
I think I should be able to. I should be able to say that at 45 almost, right? Like, it's cool that I can do this.
That's great. Now, when you're not playing or writing music, what kinds of things do you like to do?
Oh man, I love being outdoors, like I said. So gardening is my biggest passion. My wife and I have a huge vegetable garden here. We're on 2 acres of property plus the 49 acres behind us. It's mostly cash crop rotatory stuff. But that keeps us busy every day, and we get excited even in April. In the kitchen here, we set up a little tent. We start all our tomatoes, our peppers, everything ahead of time, because in Canada, you have a very small window for people to get that stuff and turning into fruit, right?
Yeah.
So that is my big thing. And I'm a huge, I love the paranormal. I follow a lot of paranormal research groups, as well as I'm into the political scene.
I watch a lot of those. I love paranormal shows.
Yeah?
I watch those all the time. Ghost Adventures, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love
the
those.
other one too, Amy Allen. I'll drop this link down on her page from Dead Files. She's and that show with the parallel investigations and the. Oh, it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And you know what? I know this. This is something that I feel and have felt, and even my grandmother was very attuned to that. And my family, from being from the old country, is that sort of sense of like we're kind of connected to it in that regard. But it reconfirms for me again all those things that I already know are there. Like my dad, even though he died 20-some years ago, I always feel like he's here with me. And when I hear that and see those things being, caught on tape or on video or some of the new devices, I'm blown away. I want to get an SB9 spirit box. I want to get the obelisk. I want to go around to like old houses and is there anybody here?
I'm totally into that too. That is so cool. I love it. I
will have to say with other people that do the provocating, they have to be very respectful and I think far more careful when it comes to some of the things that they're opening. Because when you're provocating and going, come out of that hole and get us, that's like not, good fodder for something that's
you don't want to provoke a ghost.
No, especially some evil entity that you don't even know what it is.
Exactly. I can't believe you like that stuff, man. I watch that stuff all the time. I'm fascinated by it. That's so cool. Okay, let's hear.
Yeah, cheers.
Let's hear more music.
We can go on and on.
from the Letters from High Altitudes. Tell me about these two songs, In Your Eyes, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this, so you'll have to forgive me. Melanchthon Junebug?
Yeah, you're real close. Melanchthon Junebug. Melanchthon is the town where I live up here in the town of Melanchthon. We had all these June bugs last summer, like just unbelievable amounts of them coming out of the lawn at about dusk and going up into the trees. And the trees would sound like huge electric conduits of buzzing. And I just was moved by the moment. And I started to play with this, which sort of sounds buggy and everything started to kind of correlate at the time. So I dedicated it to the June bugs in the township. And then In Your Eyes is a sort of a funky kind of rock and roll number that is talking about, when you look in somebody's eyes and even though they're telling you something, you know that the windows of their soul are saying something completely different. And I think that there's something to be said about somebody that looks you in the eyes and speaks honestly, shakes your hand. That's important to have that contact, but love is going wrong, and I can see it. It's emulating from your windows.
Right. That's so cool. Okay, let's hear these. Another two in a row from this week's Independent Artist of the Week this week on DC Coast to Coast. Ed Roman with In Your Eyes and...
Oh, Melanchthon. Melanchthon Junebug.
All right, here on DC Coast to Coast, the USA FM.
You're mistreating me, and can't you see that I'm weeping? Baby, what's the reason? Committing treason's not for me. Living on assumption, while it really doesn't function. Committed to something that really ain't nothing. I can see it in your eyes. And now it's fleeting, my heart left beating out of time. And the lost enchanted, reinventing all those lies. You're living on assumption, while it really doesn't function. Committed to something that really ain't nothing. I see it in your eyes. And the trade wind's coming, and now I'm running my way home. The new roots planted, while things have landed where I roam. Yes, they have. Living on assumption, while it really doesn't function. I know what they've been saying. Committed to something that really ain't nothing. You know what? I can see it in your eyes and the windows of your soul, honey. I can see it in your eyes.
Hey everybody, this is Ed Roman, and I'm proud to be this week's Independent Artist of the Week on DC Coast to Coast, USA FM.
songs right there from Letters from High Latitudes by Ed Roman, the Independent Artist of the Week this week here on DC Coast to Coast, and he's joining us from Canada. Ed, thank you again, brother. Yeah. Sip a cup.
Anytime, right? You
yeah,
can't live without water.
you know, salute, brother.
Salute. Cheers. You can't live without water, because without water you can't make coffee.
Yeah, there you go. I got iced coffee, so it's all good. Okay. Now that you're such an experienced musician and songwriter with years of experience behind your belt, what advice would you give to young, aspiring music artists today?
Great question, man. Be yourself. That's the hardest thing to be. And at the same time, at the end of it, when you do that, you start to realize you're creating something new. You know, there's that phrase out there that says it's all been done. You know, we could look at hundreds of chord structures and say they're all the same. We could look at similarities in certain ideas in melody or construction. All of that is true to form, but what makes it unique is the individual's interpretation, their approach, what they put of themselves into it. And when you start to do that, all of those influences that you have start to create something new.
Yeah.
It's like somebody once explained to me as a kid, you know, if we walk to a pond, you and me right now, and you're at one end and you throw in a stone, and I throw in a stone, you make a set of ripples, and I make a set of ripples, but eventually those ripples coincide, and they create a different set of ripples. And that's what, to me, you know, in the industry and trying to be yourself, even if you look back at the people of yesteryear that we look at and say, wow, they're, you know, these icons, they were just trying to be themselves. And I think that's what a lot of people appreciated them for. And over a period of time, you know, they gathered respect because of those things. You know, even the greats like Buddy Rich or Dizzy Gillespie, they had to start somewhere. And I remember my mom, and still does, said, well, I remember being at the Brass Rail in Toronto watching Buddy Rich. There was only, you know, 50 people there. And I'm like, what? You know, nowadays, you know, Buddy's gone, but he's a hero.
Yeah, absolutely.
To most, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So be yourself, folks. You know,
yourself.
That's where new ideas come from. Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice.
We can all imitate. We can all imitate, man. Like, I mean, I could say I love Jocko, I love Hendrix, I love Dylan, there's so many different people that I love, and you might hear some of that in my playing. That's natural.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I'm trying to let things come out the way that they want to, and then if it's
So be yourself. Be yourself, young artist.
Yes.
Now, think back when you were a young, aspiring artist. Was there any regretful decisions made regarding your music career that you wish you could take back?
Oh, love that question. Nobody ever asks me that.
I told you, I'm good at what I do.
I don't want to say I have regrets, but at the same time, you know, when the fit is hitting the shan, and you're trying to wonder how you're going to pay your bills, and you look at your CD sales and how many gigs you might have lined up, you go, what the heck am I doing? You know, why have I been doing this for 45 years? You know, whatever it is, you start questioning those things. But very quickly, because I think those that get involved in art do it from the beginning because they need to. It's some form of expression and being able to curtail your feelings in these ideas. So I always have been saying to myself, look, you know, the struggle and the journey, like in the Paulo Coelho book, The Alchemist, is like it's the journey that's more important. It's not the rewards. I mean, I love getting awards and acclamations, but at the same time, they're not why I started to do this. I started to do this because I had to, and I want to practice my craft with people and share those things and learn from people in that process. So somebody once said to me, wow, you know, like, well, why don't you just write a big, huge hit too and make a whole lot of money? And that statement is true to form with a lot of people in the music business. But I remember we were at a party, and I remember I said, well, when I'm on my deathbed and I'm lying there looking at the ceiling, and I think to myself, I can't take any of this money with me or this hospital bed. I think it's going to be the 2,000 songs that I'm glad I wrote, as opposed to, and his horrific look on his face, But I have to do it.
Yeah, that's great.
So no regrets, the regrets are far and few.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Okay, let's hear a couple of more here from the Letters from High Latitudes CD. Kids Are Like Vegetables and Better Day Blues. Tell me about those.
Kids Are Like Vegetables is because here I am in my gardening socio-political environment headspace again. Kids to me are a garden. When they spring out into the world, into this beautiful place that we've hopefully created for them, they need nurturing. They need care. They need watering. They need feeding. They need to be the weeds pulled from around them. All of those things that the conscious gardener thinks about in his own life and what he does. Kids are your sustenance too. They also bring you great joy, happiness, all of those things that give us new sense of life food. I can't tell you how many times I've heard other parents, because Kim and I can't have kids, we live vicariously through our kids. Or my mom would say, God, I just love watching you go through things. That's feeding people in a completely emotional way.
Yeah.
And so I'm also saying to people, pay attention to what's going on with your kids, because they could turn into vegetables if you're not careful. There's so much placation and stuff out there that just makes it seem like, why are kids paying so much attention to this? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So I'm trying to say, pay attention to that, and you have to be the constant gardener with kids. I even know that as a teacher for 25 years. Some of my students have been like my own kids to me. So I'm always asking questions, looking. I'm not trying to be overbearing, but I care. And that's what it comes down to. And then the kids, what was the other? We're trying.
Better Day Blues.
I've already lost myself. Better Day Blues is look, you're a farmer. You understand how important it is to grow food. I see people everywhere pulling down farms, barns, driving over farmland, turning them into subdivisions, turning them into malls, turning them into strip plazas. And then I go to the grocery store, shake my head like you're doing now, and go, why are we buying this stuff from thousands of miles away?
I know.
And Better Day Blues is a lamenting song to say, I'm seeing all these things, whether it be on the television, the lyric goes, there's a bad man on the TV, I wonder how many at the door, and the snake that's living in the woodpile said I couldn't take no more. Those kinds of things is just these metaphors for everybody's fed up. Yeah. And we're looking for a point in time where things are just simpler and easier, and they can be that way. They don't have to be as complex as we make them out to be. Yeah. So that's where they're coming from.
All right, good stuff. This is Ed Roman, this week's Independent Artist of the Week here on DC Coast to Coast. And here's another 2 in a row. Ed Roman with The Kids Are Like Vegetables and Better Day Blues on DC Coast to Coast, USA FM. Yeah.
Are you still there? Don't wanna be a vegetable. Don't wanna be a vegetable.
Revolution. The only solution. Non-committal, non-formatted. Non-committal, non-formatted. Just walk up to the steps of your federal government and say, "Thank you, we've had enough." A silent revolution. A revolution of speech. A revolution that doesn't preach. Turn your face and show that you care. I'm thinking. No fire, but can you smell the smoke? I've been thinking 7 generations, even though I can't have one of my own. I've been thinking 7 generations. Some apostolician governmental system which holds a collar on my neck.
Please enter your password.
Your kids, they are your garden. Your children, they are your future. I'm just gonna say no. I'm just gonna say no. I'm just gonna say no. Just gonna say no. I have no fear of seed companies. I have no fear of politics. I'm holding my heart open to you. Let me share a song with you. Your kids, they're like vegetables. Your kids, they're turning into vegetables.
Please enter your password.
Are you still there? Are you still there? So tend your garden like it's the last thing you'll ever do.
It's the best corn I've ever tasted in my whole entire life.
Are you still there? Message skipped. Goodbye.
There's a bad man on TV, wonder how many at the door. And a snake that's living in the woodpile said I couldn't take no more. Cheap that's in the smokehouse, packed up, he'd go to better days and Latin ways where spirit freely flows. Big yellow monsters are breaking down my fence. Yeah, lately all I can do is plead self-defense. If it ain't around that often, baby, why do they call it common sense? I live more in fear every year. It's all at our expense. Our expense. Well, there's a bad man on the TV, wonder how many at the door. And a snake that's living in a woodpile said I couldn't take no more. Chief that's in the smokehouse, packed up, he did go to better days and Latin ways where spirit freely flows. Who the fuck's in charge here? I think your brain is just a sieve. How much can you pile on before it's bound to give? And it's bound to. Everybody needs some space. Everybody's got to live. Well, you know we stand, divide we fall. We could really cause a rift, a big old rift. Well, there's a bad man on the TV, wonder how many at the door. And a snake that's living in the woodpile said I couldn't take no more. Chief that's in his smokehouse, backed up he did go to better days and Latin ways where spirit freely flows. Days and Latin ways where spirit freely flows. Not much more to say, but mind your P's and Q's. Be happy with what you got, or you'll be singing the blues. Time is now for changes. There is no time to lose. Well, read your papers, watch the news. You can spot the clues. blues. Well, there's Batman on the TV, wonder how many at the door. And I think that's living in a woodpile, said I couldn't take no more. Chief that's in the smokehouse, packed up he did go to better days and long ways where spirit really flows. A Batman on the TV, how many at the door? And I think that's living in a woodpile, couldn't take no more. Chief that's in the smokehouse, packed up he did go. Better days and long ways where spirit really flows. Better days and long ways where spirit really flows. To better days and long ways where spirit really flows. To better days and long ways where spirit really
There he is, my good buddy from Canada, Ed Roman, with 2 in a row. Yeah, kids like vegetables and better day blues. Love them. Good stuff, brother. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Is there anything you haven't done in the music scene yet that you'd like to do?
Well, definitely on the road, playing for extended periods of time. I'm hungry and a bit of a road rat, and I love meeting people, and I love seeing new places.
Yeah, I totally relate.
You know, I go out and I come back with all these ideas, and every time I have a conversation or hear what somebody's going through in their lives, I get excited in a whole new way. And you know, I've had those stints where you're out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. That's great, but I'm just like, let's do it for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, let's not only go to the U.S., let's go to Europe, or let's go to Japan. Or I want to travel around the world and meet people. That's my most, you know, exciting thing and thing I haven't done as much of.
Good.
But in this last year, with everything that's been going on, there may be, you know, things like that in the future that I'm working towards, which I definitely am.
Cool.
So down in the States in February in Pennsylvania for a music conference that's happening there on the 28th and in Harrisburg. And I'm down again in Texas and Austin for South by Southwest, which is a huge deal. On 6th Street, the legendary. Back in New Jersey again.
Yeah, I have been there. Yeah, that's so cool.
And then, yeah, it's and just to play in Austin, the city of music. I mean, Antone's is around the corner. All of that. It's just fodder for wanting to do more. You know,
Very cool.
And I'm happy to do it.
Excellent. Now, do you prefer working as a solo act or with a band?
Both. I mean, I love the interaction with musicians and the sound we make together. Because I've played in like concert bands and 12-piece stage bands and quartets and I love it. I just seeing that huge entity or even small group work as one is killer. But you know, playing acoustic, or, you know, that's even why I started to do it. You don't need electricity or an amplifier at a field party or a kitchen party or wherever. You can just go sing, talk to people, and play songs. So I learned to fall in love with it because of that. If I play a smaller show and it only holds about 50 or 60 people in the club, there might be some live music with a band or even me doing some stuff with my pedal work, but I'll move from table to table and I'll ask people, like, what do you want to hear?
Awesome.
You know, and having that intimacy is really important to people, I think.
Yeah, that's so cool. Let's hear another composition live.
Yeah, you want to hear another one?
Yeah.
Okay, this one, I'm always trying to pay homage to people that have been helping me out a lot. So this one is going out to Mike Stover. And also to my buddy Ken Segrist. And buddy Ken Segrist, who also introduced me to Mike Stover. And I'm trying to say.
And by the way, if Mike is watching, he's watching. Buddy, thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do. I appreciate you sending Ed our way. Thank you.
Awesome, Mikey. Hey, did I ever tell you that I grew up with bread on me? Boy, was he being a kid. We had all sorts of really cool things to play with, like a Hathaway spaceship lunchbox and a bathtub full of Lego. I didn't believe you when somebody said that he fled Jimi Hendrix to a UFO typeface stamp up on my Machu Picchu. Up on my Machu Picchu. I said, excuse me, it's not my fault. He's playing the crime, so he can't get caught. I said, excuse me, I must confess. Well, give me 2 words. Well, in my defense, laughing mad. I'm laughing mad. I'm laughing mad. And I'm proud of it. I'm laughing mad. Might be it. And that's a red hot stove down in Pittsburgh, going out hard like a cherry pie. Call me if you ever call me a lie, say it to my face, like a cross between Benjamin Franklin and Ian Chase. And I didn't believe the man from MI6 living out in the sticks, souped up side by side, just like Evil Knievel. Just like Evil Knievel. Yes, you did. Just said, excuse me, it's not my fault. He's playing the crime, so he can't get caught. I said, excuse me, I must confess. Well, give me 2 words. Well, in my defense, laughing mad. Yes, I am. I'm laughing mad. I'm laughing mad. Now, the audience is listening. They can all play no soul. I'm laughing mad. That's about all that sums it up from each day. You see, my nerves are shattered, tattered, tired, and beginning to breathe. Just like Dorothy the Wizard of Oz, realizing we're just caught in somebody else's claws. And I didn't believe in myself, there's no one else to be making voodoo music in some small town way up in Canada. Way up in Canada. Yes, we are. I said, excuse me, it's not my fault. He's playing the crime, so he can't get caught. I said, excuse me, I must confess. Well, give him 2 words. Well, in his defense, laughing mad. Yes, he is. Crazy about it. I'm laughing mad. Yes, I'm laughing mad. I'm laughing mad. I say, hey, did I ever tell you that I grew up with Red Omen? Or was he a kid?
It's great. What a great song. I love it.
There's a red hot stove down in Pittsburgh going out hard like a cherry pie.
That's great.
He's a huge Ian Pace fan, right? He's a huge Ian Pace. He's got those little glasses. You put the wig on him and one of those hats, he'd look like Benjamin Franklin. And he's so honest, how could you not trust him?
Oh my God, that was great. Okay, we got another cut here by Ed Roman from Letters from High Latitudes. Tell me about Tinker.
Oh, Tinker is a jazz tune that I wrote for a friend of mine, Tobias, if you're out there, and I know you're going to be listening. They were a family of people that grew up in our neighborhood in a very small home, but they were the most creative people I've ever met in my entire life. From the books that they turned me on to, language, music, Mrs. Tinker is an incredible wood carver, painter, and pianist. Mike is an extremely accomplished musician. His sister Katie is the curator of a museum in Halifax and a violinist.
Wow.
His dad is a biochemist. One son is a geneticist. The other one is works for the National Geographic Society with animals.
Wow.
They're all really amazing people. But that name always has conjured this feeling like it's a cross between, Nikola Tesla and the Hobbit. They've had this kind of existence in my heart, and I wanted to write a tune that was playful, yet at the same time had some sense of stamina to it. And a jazz piece, because Tinker and I grew up playing music together, seemed to exemplify it really well. I also, wanted to use a sense of chord changes that he and I were experimenting with, and he was showing me a bunch of ideas, and I went, I'm going to incorporate this into a song and dedicate it to you, man.
There you go. All right, we're gonna play that here in just a second. Now we'll be back to speak with Ed for one more time and have him give some final thoughts to everyone out there. So keep it right here on DC Coast to Coast, and here is Ed Roman, this week's Independent Artist of the Week, this week with the Tinker on the USA FM. Tinker. Ed Roman, DC Coast to Coast, Independent Artist of the Week, joining me here on the show today from Canada. Ed, what a blast, brother. I can't thank you enough. Wow. Good stuff.
Man, you too. I love chatting with you, and you're hilarious, man. Because when we get into anecdotal stuff and start giggling like a bunch of kids in the schoolyard, you know you're having a good time.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. Who inspired you that you would consider like a mentor or confidant in your life growing up?
Well, the man that's running the studio session right now upstairs at Area 51, Michael Jack, he is definitely somebody that has always stood by me in my music ever since I was 16 years old and I won a Battle of the Band competitions on a frozen pond in a little town up here in Canada. And because of that, having somebody like that not only understands what you're doing but can help guide you through the process is important. He also has a wonderful ability to stand back and let things happen when they're happening. And at the same time, was one of those people that, despite how bad things were or having trouble with the business, always was pushing me. You can do this, you can do this. He's the one that helped me create my first web presence, started my Reverb Nation page for me. And just like got me out and kicked my butt and just said, you need to do this. It's not, happening that way anymore. The old-fashioned way, sending up press kits, and it still occurs, but, so I would say, and one of those people that it's like, I trust him with my will. He's like that kind of a person. So Mike Jack is that guy. He's up there now. He doesn't even want me taking pictures of him. He doesn't like that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Mike, for what you do, brother. Thank you. Now, a while back in October, we did a broadcast for Global Cooperation for World Peace, and you were so gracious to be a part of that show by sending in your video, giving thoughts and wishes for world peace, and it is so appreciative. And we are running this campaign throughout the entire year of 2015 because I'm just so tired of seeing all the senseless violence and killing that's going on around the world, and it just I can't wrap my mind around it. So that's why I wanted to keep this campaign going. And again, I want to thank you for taking time to do that for me. And we're gonna spin that video, folks. If you haven't seen what Ed had to say, it's pretty powerful. So we're gonna spin that video in just a second, followed by the last song here. But Ed, tell me about some upcoming concerts you have going on, so we can get that out there for the viewers.
For sure. I'll be down at the Colonial Convention Center in Harrisburg, PA on the 28th for the conference that's happening there. I'll also be in Austin, Texas on the 18th of March, which is the day after St. Patty's Day, at part of South by Southwest, which is huge. It just so happens
that's a great event. Yeah.
Quick trip back across the border to Canada, but then I'm back down in New Jersey for the Cape May Folk Music Festival that's happening in Cape May on the 28th of March, excuse me. So that's Cape May, not May the month, but it's hard to think of it that way. But and just once again, also too, I'm embarking on a whole bunch of new recording in the spring and getting ready for a new record, and happy to be down there, maybe down at the IMEA Awards again this year, and the AMG Awards, which I picked up the Best Male Vocalist Contemporary Artist of the Year by the IMEA. It's a huge, I even keep it here on my mantle.
There you
go.
I
know that I've done something good.
There you go.
Folks. That's the Ed Heads. I have to thank all the Ed Heads, too, because they voted for me and helped me bring this trophy home. I'm proud.
Congratulations. That's great. Fabulous.
Thanks, man.
Okay. In closing, I'm going to ask you a pretty deep question because I'm just really curious about all the artists that come on here. What if you could change the world in any way? What would it be?
Wow. If I could change the world is perfect and beautiful and exquisite and is the most abundant place of joy and beauty that we have, and we're all walking around it every day. The only thing that needs to be changed is people's perception of their conscious behavior. And what I mean by that is you have to consciously in this day and age pay attention to everything that goes around you. You can't take everything for face value. If a television commercial says it, it doesn't mean that it's right. If there's a new rule and a regulation that's been put into place, just because it's put into place doesn't make it right, especially when you know it's hurting somebody.
Yeah.
All of those things are important to question. So I would say that you know, from that perspective, it's people just, you know, even with the differences of religion or politics. Look, my dad was in politics for a long time, and even the people that he debated with, you know, they still had to work together.
Yeah.
So despite you may have differences of opinion, doesn't mean that you have to become mortal enemies.
There you go.
And so I would change, you know, it has to do with the frequency of our behavior. And if you listen to all the great mystics and people of the past, you know, they say, well, you know, 1999 Nostradamus, or the 2012 prophecy of the Mayans, or they're all talking about a frequency shift.
Yeah.
And if more people are not paying attention to it, it's easy for the darkness to be a reality.
Yeah.
You know, and the more people light candles,
Yeah.
and ask questions and walk around that room, the more and more people start to see.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Other than that, everything is beautiful. We're beautiful. People are beautiful. Races, creeds, colors,
Absolutely.
countries. They all have something beautiful. The homogenization of everything, it seems to be what is most alarming to me. And that's what doesn't promote that conscious wavelength thinking about stuff.
There you go. Well said from my dear friend, Independent Artist of the Week this week on DC Coast to Coast, Ed Roman. Ed, I can't thank you enough, brother, for taking the time out to do this. And we're going to play the final song from your CD. This is called I Found God, which is kind of fitting for the global cooperation for world peace campaign that we have going on and that you so graciously participated in. And you're going to see that next here on DC Coast to Coast. So tell me a little bit about I Found God.
You're totally right. It ties into everything we're talking about, and even the message of peace. I Found God is one of those songs that for me is like an epitaph song, something that I would want scrolled on a stone when I'm in the ground. It comes from Aboriginal ways of thinking, Indigenous people, and I've spent a lot of time with Crees and Scoogogs, and what we do to ourselves, we do to the planet. What we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. I'm of a great opinion that, you know, there's so much majesty and beauty and godlike behavior in everything around us that, to me, this is God. We are God. God is one of those things that we make together. And to me, you know, when I say the phrase in the song, I found God, you are standing on it, is also trying to re-amplify for people to go, look what's in front of you. It's the trees, it's this person, it's this child.
Because he's everywhere.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. And that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying, hey, look, I found it. It's that, everybody stop arguing about it. It's here.
Yeah.
It's right here, right now.
That's great stuff, brother. Okay, we're going to hear that song, I Found God, by Ed Roman, my guest here, right after we spin the Global Cooperation for World Peace video that Ed submitted and was so gracious. So if you haven't seen this yet, you're in for a real treat with a powerful message. So, Ed Roman, brother, my heartfelt thanks for you being here on DC Coast to Coast. I love you, man. You know, I have so much even more respect for you now that we've had a chance to spend this time together. And I am humbled by you, and I just thank you for all you do, and keep the great messages going out and keep the great music coming. And we'll have to do this again when you can.
Absolutely, my friend. You know, I'm always here to be on the show, and a great pleasure to be on your show. You have so many listeners, really cool people that you have on your show. I feel honored and privileged to call you my friend. So when we call each other friends, it's for life, brother.
That's what you like to.
Right on cue.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, it's not me.
It's my mom! It's my mom! She's calling!
That's so funny.
What's going on with the weather? Are you stranded? Is your driveway blown in? Do you have electricity? Have you run out of wood yet? I love you, Mom. I love you.
That was so cool. What a great ending. What a great way to end the show. So, Ed, my brother, thank you. I love you so much. And please stay in touch.
Too.
Okay? And so,
Absolutely.
listeners and viewers out there, I hope you've enjoyed Ed Roman, this week's Independent Artist of the Week on DC Coast to Coast. Now listen what he has to say about his thoughts and wishes for world peace, followed by I Found God, right here on DC Coast to Coast on the USA FM. Thank you, Ed. I love you, brother.
You too, brother. I love you, man. Thanks so much, eh?
Bye-bye.
Hey, this is musician Ed Roman, and this is my message of peace. In the world and the day we live in, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and it's actually our differences that make us unique and special, and that make us who we are. It's not the differences that we have that separate us, it's the differences that actually bring us closer together. This message of peace is for everybody around the world to try to say we need to spend more time talking with one another, listening to one another, and trying to figure out what our differences are and try to understand them. Whether they be how we worship, how we live our lives, how we feel about life. It's important that we talk, not listen to all the anger and the fear that's continually being pumped at us day after day. We just need to speak to one another in our own backyards, our own towns, our own states, and countries, provinces, the world. I'd like to thank DC Coast to Coast for letting me bring my message of peace to you. From Ed and his dog, or if you're dyslexic, dog, God. Peace. Peace. From dog ear. Hey everybody, this is Ed Roman, and independent artists like me have a voice here at DC Coast to Coast. You're listening to one of my songs called I Found God, right here on USA FM.
Hey, I found God, you're standing on it. Look into the sky, look into the eye, the bluest I've ever seen. Be careful how you tread, or at least that's what should be said. I found God, you're standing on it. At night it likes to sleep and take me, give no ease. The beauty's so extreme. There's only one condition, it's of your own volition, and Hey, I found God. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, I found God. Hey, I found God, you're standing on it. Spinning here in place, inside a magic space. It seems just like a dream. Gather up your karma, throw away the dogma, 'cause I found God, you're standing on it. Inside a frozen lake, there is no mistake. Come purify us, please. The seas, they are a calling, the trees, they are a fallen, and hey, I found God. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, I found God. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, I found God. You're standing on it. Hey, I found God, you're standing on it. It's been right beneath your shoes, it's been leaving subtle clues. I feel it so complete. It came upon a vision, I'll leave you my admission that, hey, I found